Alright, today I'm going to be assembling my dream case. This is the HAF 700 EVO. Okay, but it does come with some nuts and bolts, and we got some instructions. So there's one little thumb nut, and that sits right in the top back. Then the top pulls back, and the side pops off. We got our vertical graphics card holder. So it comes with two 120s in the back, two 200s in the front, one 120 on the bottom. It can hold three 120s on the bottom or three 140s, so that's what I got. And then it can hold up to six 120s in the top or two 200s. I always prefer larger fans, so that's what I'm going to be installing. Like the mirror is already mounted. Now, the reason I go with larger fans is because larger fans usually run quieter. Now, if I really cared with that, I'd just go with Noctua, but Noctua does not make RGB fans. If you look at the fan, you can see that arrow that is pointing up, so the fan is going to spin this way, it's going to push the air that way. So I want it like this. In this little bag, we've got a clip, so you can make sure that those wires are going to stay connected to each other, and it comes with 4 mounting screws, and a male-to-male adapter. So these are also Cooler Master fans. These are the Sickleflow 140s. I did notice that they actually have braided cable, which is definitely something you don't normally see. Our power cable there, and then we got our ARGB right there. It also has rubber padding on the sides. So we actually had a couple things on here that I hadn't noticed before when I was looking at it on other videos. There's actually a little plate right here. So what that means is whenever you put your motherboard on here and you get all those cables hanging out the bottom, they're not going to be just fully visible. They're actually going to be kind of hidden. So they'll drop down here and then go right through this little grommet in the back. And the other thing is these grommets are actually at a 90-degree angle. I've never seen that, so that's pretty cool. So this is the Cooler Master HAF X. This is the reason that I got the Cooler Master 700 EVO. I bought this case when it was brand new when it first came out, which means it's about 15 years old. I've pulled the guts out of it, put new guts in many times. This is the reason that I always tell people not to skip on a case, because if you get a nice case right at the beginning, just upgrade the components over and over and you're good to go. I did not need this case. I just wanted this case. It was time for an upgrade. This thing has treated me very well. Like, I've dropped this off of tables. I've done all kinds of nasty stuff to it. The only thing that's ever broke on it was one of the fan blades, so I just replaced the fan and it was good to go. Cooler Master makes an extremely robust case. And this one is no different. Believe it or not, this one is actually a little bit bigger. It's a little bit longer, a little bit deeper, a little bit taller. I thought that case was huge. I'm a big fan of big cases because that means that you're gonna have a lot more room to actually be able to work around inside of here. So when you're actually building it and rebuilding it, it's gonna make your life a lot easier. So this puppy is finally gonna retire. I'm gonna take the guts out of that. I'm gonna put it in that. So we got two USB 3 plugs. These are for these ports on the top. We got a USB 3.1 jack. That is for the USB-C ports. We have a SATA power connection, so that is to power these controllers right here. And then we got a USB 2 port, which goes to the motherboard, which is also for these controllers. This is actually kind of cool. They've got the hard drive LED, the power, and the reset all just kind of bundled together already. That's pretty cool. So I'm going to do one of the USB 3s here in the top, as well as the USB-C. And I'll push that through the top ground just because that is the closest path to those ports on the motherboard. Push the next USB-C through the lower grommet. And, oh, and I forgot the HD audio. So we got the USB 2 and the HD audio and the switches. I'm going to push all those through the upper horizontal grommet. I really like having this little guard right here. I should have put the USB 3 in that lower grommet as well. And it looks like this is actually set up correctly for this. So that's nice. Cool. That is convenient. So to supply power to the motherboard, I'm going to go with a Lian Li Strimer Plus V2. So we got a controller, and we got the power strip. I think what we could do, let's see, we could do like that, we could go like this. I think I am going to go through the side like that. And that will plug into my power supply cable, which will then plug into the power supply. So then I'll just need CPU power, SATA, and potentially the GPU. That is really nice for changing out a power supply. So here's one thing that's really cool about this case. The CPU cable on the HAF X, I actually had to use an extension just because it wasn't long enough. But this one, the motherboard sits lower, the power supply sits higher, so I don't have to do that. There's actually plenty of cable on this one. One of the nice things about the HAF X, pulling hard drives out is very easy. Unfortunately, we got a very easy system on this one too. So very cool. So now we can plug in the SATA power for these hard drives. And I'm going to plug power into the controller right here. And then the controller, we're just going to stick somewhere. We need to supply it power, also SATA power. Wish they made that a little bit closer to an SSD, but that's okay. So for the video card, I'm not going to be reusing that 1060. I'm going to be going with another video card, and it uses a 12-volt high power. So I'm using this Corsair 12-volt high power adapter. And the reason I'm using this one is because this is 16 gauge. So these guys that you can plug into the adapters, these are 18 gauge. These are good for 450 watts. But to make it a little bit more safe, this is 16 gauge, which means it's good for 600 watts. So this is going to be a little bit better. So you can see this has got two 8 pins that connect to one 12-volt high power. And the reason I'm using this Corsair one is because I know it will plug directly into my Corsair power supply. And to further enhance the RGB, I got another Lian Li Strimer Plus V2, and this is the 12-volt high power version. And this is the 12 LED strip. So they make one that's an 8 LED strip and one that's 12. This is the big one. They do also make one that will connect as an adapter like this. So you got your two 8s to a 12. But then I have to use these. And again, these are the 18 gauge, so it'll only be limited to 450. So with this, combined with that Corsair one, I got a full 600. So I'll connect the female of the Lian Li. There we go. Then I think this is going to go about here, but we will come to that when we get to it. And the other side plugs into the same controller for the 24-pin power. And for the top, so these are the Sickleflow 200s. This actually comes with a short extension. It looks like we got long bolts and short bolts. Don't know that that would fit on top. No, so it's going to have to go on the bottom, which is not a problem because that's how I intended to do it anyway. So it's going to look something like that. And I'm going to swap out this fan. Got another one by Noctua. This one is Chromax Black. So the last piece and the actual upgrade. So this is the Big Daddy. So this does come with a support. It is magnetic on the bottom. And then we just loosen this nut, pull it out, tighten it down. Actually is much nicer looking than I was expecting. Now that is a spectacle. The Lian Li stripes are definitely a lot, they look better to the eye than they do on the camera. They look closer to this. But they're just so bright that it kind of blasts out the camera. That is insane.